Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with your 2024 stats video. We're going to talk about my stats for the reading year of 2024. I'm also going to tell you what I'm using to track in 2025 currently, what my game plan is. I will kind of talk and show you some screen stuff when we do that. But if you're new here, I read a lot. So if that's going to bother you, the stat video may not be for you. But if you're also curious on the breakdown of someone who read over 400 books this year, 426 according to Goodreads, 427 according to my spreadsheets, this is it. This is your breakdown. So all of the data I'm giving you is going to be from my spreadsheets because that's where I have all the data. But we're going to talk about all of the interesting bits I pulled out from my stats video this year because I enjoy looking at them and seeing things that pop out to me as far as my reading habits for a year because they do shift year to year. So I read 201 books this year, 51,491 pages. And then I read 226 volumes of manga for 41,751 pages, totaling 427 titles read and 93,242 pages read. I am so close to hitting 100,000 pages in a year that I'm hoping to do it this year. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure if that'll happen or not, but I would really like to see it. The rest of these stats are going to be specifically from my bookish spreadsheet, so they'll be book focused. I have a manga reflection video coming that'll talk more about my manga stats for the year. So my average rating for books was 3.9 last year, which doesn't surprise me. I feel like I did more bonkers book vlogs. I read some things that I didn't love as much. I struggled to find my 24 favorites. I struggled. So there's that. And then, yeah, I feel like the 3.9 for me is very reflective of how I felt just trying to pick out books I loved this year to talk about in my favorites video. So yeah, that was interesting to me to see. Most years I average a 4 or 4.2, I would say. So 53% of what I read was traditionally published, which I also think is a key point in this. So this I think is inflated because of how many indies got picked up by traditional publishers this year also. But generally speaking, I would say I lean more, usually heavier indie or self-published titles than I do traditional. But this year we flip-flopped because I only read 47% of self-published work or independent authors. But again, I'm wondering how much of this was inflated by authors that were picked up very quickly after release. So who knows? Then the other thing is I read more authors I'd read previously than new to me authors. So only 36% of the books I read were new to me authors. I'd read 64% of authors I'd previously read, which I thought was also really interesting. I will say I am going to do a better job of tracking debuts, and that's a video I'm going to add into 2025 as a favorite debuts that I read, because I think it's important to keep reading new to you, authors that are just new to the scene in general versus also new to you. Both are important. Format-wise, 128 books I read were audiobooks, that's 64%, 70 were ebooks, that's 35%, and then 1% were a tandem read mix, so I might read the ebook and listen to it, I'd switch back and forth. That is something I do occasionally. I'd like to do more of it this year, but we'll see. So for book length wise, 106 of the books I read were full-length novels. That equates to 53% of my reading, and 43% were novellas. The rest were other options that I had in there. So then 85 were novellas. That's about 43%, and then the rest is a mishmash, as you can see here, of different format options. My genre breakdown was not surprising. 70% of my main genre category was romance, and then I have a subgenre category because romance is so vast that I need to be able to really break it down into other things. So 30% of that subgenre reading was contemporary romance, which I have said before, I don't hate contemporary romance. It's kind of an easy pickup item, if that makes sense. This also loops in a lot of my sports romance, so I may make a category for sports in 2025. But that's a lot of contemporary for me as someone who loves paranormal and fantasy and all these other subgenres. I'm really surprised that I read as much contemporary as I did. I also mark things as dark romance if I think they're a darker romance and all that. So I don't know. I'm interested, and I definitely see the need to pivot some next year to have even more reads that I love. For release years, this was also interesting to me. I read 72 books that released in 2024, and that was 41% of my reading. Whereas 46 books, and 25% were our next biggest group, and that was 2023 releases, I believe. I just would like to see a bigger spread on this. I'm not surprised that most of the books I read have been published in the last 3 to 5 years. That's pretty typical, I feel like. But again, I'm just interesting. And you may be wondering, where are you reading all these books? How are you affording this? Well, we're here. Library and Kindle Unlimited are how, y'all. Both of those are over half my reading. That's a solid 60+% of my reading is library books and KU. So there's that. I do track my library savings, and I will say I don't know if I was as thorough as I could have been this year, but I did my best. And that best equated to $691.25 in savings. I only spend perhaps maybe $200 a year, if that, on out-of-state library cards. So in doing so, I'm saving well over what I pay for those cards each year. On that note, did I spend money on books? Yes, I did. Of course I did. What did I spend? What did I spend? All right. So for books, I spent $209.10. That equated to about 25 books. I did save $325.86, but I did not track my whole year of like free books I picked up or anything like that. I started to, and honestly, I gave up. I was like, this is too much work. I don't want to do this. So I stopped. I made it through like page 7 of 2024 orders. Okay. I don't know how many pages there were. I gave up. It was too much work. But I am really diligent about tracking when I do purchase an ebook usually, and or when I do buy a physical book. So I'm very happy with this number. The place I really spent money is not going to be a surprise for anyone who watches my channel, and that's on manga. I spent a lot of money on manga in 2024. I always spend a lot of money on manga. I do spend about the same every year on manga, which is about $1,200 to $1,300, which broken down over 12 months is really not that bad. That's like $110 a month we're going to average on manga. Not terrible at all, in my opinion. And I'm okay with this because this is my main hobby. I love to read. I love reading manga. So it makes sense that I'm spending about that. So on manga, I spent $1,266.99 this year. I did save $1,110.99 though through discounts, trade-in value. I traded a bunch of stuff in at McKay's at the beginning of the year through discount purchases, sale purchases, and all that. I track what I pay for the book depending on the discount. So, and then I track the retail price. So that feels not terrible. This was 149 volumes. Again, that doesn't feel terrible when I read 226 volumes last year. We just got to read down what we own. You can't see what I own, but I've got to read down what I own more of. And then last but not least, my Kindle Unlimited. I did add a tracker to my spreadsheet. Steph over at Novelty Corner's free spreadsheet has a tracker for this. But yeah, I want to track that I'm reading more than my KU subscription costs me in value. I will probably track pages next year also to see if I'm reading enough pages to make sure most of the money I spend on KU goes to the author. But this year I saved $263.50 with my Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I read more than my subscription cost the whole year. So I'm very happy with that. That's kind of my goal usually. I feel like that's a good way for me to track at least. So that was nice. All right, let's talk about how am I tracking in 2025, because that's the other part of this video that I usually tag in. So if you're new here, I do a Google form every single year that I pull into my reading spreadsheet. And to do this, basically, you just send the form to a spreadsheet and then you import the range. I will link to a video where I set this up previously if you're curious, but I do that and that will allow me to quickly populate majority of my reading spreadsheet. And then I just have to go back in and add publisher details, cover colors, things like that, and any other notes I want to add, but I do have a spot on the spreadsheet for notes. So this is my Google form this year. I will link to the design I did for the header. If anybody wants to use that for their Google form, you're more than welcome to. I'm really happy with it this year. I think it's really cute. It's very fun, just cutesy. I don't know. I really loved last year's too, so I was really torn on if I just wanted to update the year, but I was like, no, it's a new year. We need to do this. So that form auto-populates to my spreadsheet, which I just took my spreadsheet from hardback quarter last year and updated it to 2025, which didn't require a lot of work beyond changing the year and the year stats. So that's what I'm using this year. I'm just reusing the same spreadsheet because I don't need a new one really. So that's how I'm doing it. I also am transitioning my manga spreadsheet to the 5-year manga spreadsheet that I had going. So I have a 5-year spreadsheet that I got a basic one last year, and then I got a 5-year. So I did a 5-year book and I did a 5-year manga. The manga one, I took everything from last year and put it into the 5-year, and I'm just slowly moving it forward basically. I've already cleared like the bottom of the spreadsheet. Like I stopped at whatever number I was on reading, and then I put the next like round of 1, 2, 3, 4, to count the books I read. So yeah, I just have merged all that into one, and I'm going to manually track my manga there. I really like doing it this way. Manga, I like tracking manual. I don't enjoy the form because I find it more annoying to do multiple volumes in the form. Whereas with the book reading, the form also the form is just simpler, but also the form allows me to update on the go. So like if I'm traveling and I can just pull it up on my phone and quickly put in all the info. So like I really appreciate that aspect. The other thing I want to recommend, if you are someone who like wants to track but doesn't want to use Goodreads, doesn't want to use Storygraph, wants to just like use something else, the Google Forms are great because Google Forms are a great option because they also auto-populate apps for you and stuff. So you can have a like pie chart of different things depending on what you track and all that. So it's really nice to do that. If you want to make it more in depth, you could put like format and all that stuff, but it'll give you breakdowns at the end of the year to show you various things about your reading. So that's like kind of a low-key way to track if you're wanting to give that a go. But yeah, that is where we're at. I am a dedicated spreadsheet girly. I have years and years of reading spreadsheets going back now. And I like doing a new one every year. I'm weird, but I also like that because I adapt them. Like this year I've added author and character tracking for different representations so that I can just kind of keep track for myself. I don't share that data out necessarily always because I just don't want to like mislabel an author accidentally publicly. Like that I would feel terrible. So that's why I don't always share those statistics completely, but I do label when I know for sure in the comments. But yeah, that is my 2024 stats, my 2025 tracking plans. I would love to know how y'all are tracking your reading in 2025. What's your game plan? Are you just like modifying a spreadsheet and moving forward? Do you have like a long running spreadsheet you've got going for years? I wish I had that, but I realize that spreadsheet would be so slow at this point because it would have thousands and thousands of books in it. So we're just going to start with the 5 years and then go from there. Let me know all that in the comments. If you don't want to do any of that, leave me like the emoji with the nerd glasses because this video makes me feel like such a nerd every single year. But here we are. Here we are. It's fine. So yeah, you can do that down below. If you don't do any of that, you know, so you do that down below. I'll have links to the spreadsheets I use down there for you if they're available still. And if not, I will have like a link to that video I told you about how to import your range, how to import the data from a Google form. Anyways, I don't think I have anything else for y'all. So yeah, I will have links to anything I can link to down there for you. Links to my friend anywhere on the internet that I am. And I'll catch y'all in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away. This is what we will.